Uhuru. Welcome to the breakdown. This is your host, Yejide Oramila, and today we are going to be breaking down child protective services. And this broadcast is being brought to you by the African National Women's Organization, which is a mass organization under the leadership of the African People's Socialist Party. Um, we're creating a new news and analysis program on the Burning Spear TV and on AMWO's platforms to share the news, opinions, analysis that highlight the invited guests that we have onto our show, and to highlight the plight of colonized women struggling against colonialism. Again, my name is Yejide Oromila. I will be your host for today's broadcast, and I am joined by guest Mashai Small, who is a mother, a wife, a doula, a minister, a coach, and an Army veteran, and a podcaster and activist. And those are some of the many titles that she wears. She's a Gullah Geechee woman who uses her voice and knowledge to find solutions to problems within the community. She is the founder and CEO of Peace of Mind Holistic Lifestyle Business that serves the community for mental, physical, spiritual, emotional, financial, and intellectual resources. She's a Gen Z life coach who turns her life experiences into humbling hymns to sing to others along their life journey. And for today's show, she's somebody who has been impacted by the Child Protective Services um, gulag, what a good word to say, this entity that has really run wreaked havoc on African families around the world. I won't even limit it to the United States because this happens in different places around the world. And so Mashe is going to be sharing her experience with us today, helping people to understand, why it is that we are talking about this issue, why it is that African National Women's Organization, and along with other organizations, are in the streets and on the front lines of this issue, and answer any questions that you may have, because we understand that the community at large who have not been impacted by this may still question whether or not this is the right fight for Black folks. So, this issue, we've been organizing around it since 2017. The African National Women's Organization has, and we have witnessed and experienced the devastation that this agency wreaks in the lives of African families. Our discussion with Mashe will be focused on her case, but it will also expose the sameness in the tactics from the US to Europe and where we've worked. So, and what we also understand that DHS, the Department of Human Services, is a department over all of the child protection agencies in every single state. It was created as a colonial institution, and therefore we understand that it was not created to help colonize people. It's still there to oppress and limit our ability to really organize and focus on the task at hand, which is to get free. There will be a question and answer segment toward the end of the program. But for right now, we just want to welcome Mashai Small and give her an opportunity to add on any introductions that I may have missed in what I've said so far. So welcome to the show, Mashai.
Thank you. No, you did perfect. I wanted to keep my bio short, sweet, and really to describe like where I am in my life. Um, and I couldn't put it together even better than how I did. But I do thank you for welcoming me onto this platform and allowing me to share my story, my baby story, and my family story.
Great. Thank you so much, Mashai. So, before you were impacted by the CPS system, and, like so many other people in the country and in the world, like, what were your thoughts about CPS? Or what did you think about the agency itself? Did you think it was helpful, harmful? Did you have any thoughts about it at all?
So I really growing up I knew about like DSS. Really didn't know anything too deep into it until I actually found out about Operation Stop CPS, which was back in 2021.
Mhm.
And then when I really interviewed them and found out what was going on with families, then my mind really opened up, because at that point in time I had just became a mother to Colin. So um, at first, I was like, yeah, they're supposed to help people, give them food stamps. If you need things for your sons or daughters, or even elderly people, they would go to that office, wait in these long lines like it's a lottery, and just hope that they would get what they need from this particular organization. Sometimes you had to try 3 and 4 times. Sometimes you got what you needed on the first go round, but it never was the final piece to the puzzle with whatever someone was going through. So it really, I want to say, it really wasn't something that I could say that I felt like I had like a bad taste in my mouth, where it was to the point where I was like, oh, I extremely dislike you or anything. I didn't have that run in with them where I felt like I needed to be um like angry with them.
Yeah, I think on this, I think the way that you're responding to this is very much the way that most people who haven't been impacted by CPS react. Like you don't think about it until until something happens to you, until something impacts you, and whether it's a friend, family, or it's by you directly. Generally speaking, people tend to think that the Child Protective Services is an agency that is here to help families and particularly protect children, not so much families. I thought that it was about protecting children from their families who have been abusive. And in my mind, CPS was a response to abuse, like physical, violent abuse. And so, um, in that vein, I never, and even then, I don't remember feeling like, you know, any way about it. It was just an agency that was there and it was there to protect children. Okay. And so I didn't have a negative feeling about it or a positive feeling about it. It was just that these children needed help and it was unfortunate that they may have been in situations that caused CPS to come. But of course, as we got this as a campaign, because the African National Women's Organization was contacted by two moms initially in 2017 to who actually were going through it. And that's when, just like, your situation that you're about to explain, we had no idea about what the system really was and how it is devastating and I think a political strategy of the colonial government to disrupt the lives of colonized people. So um, this leads back into my next question, which is, you know, let me get my hold on. Let's talk about your case. Tell us a little bit about what has happened to you. How did it start? Where is it now? How do you think it will end? And what you need people to know or do.
Okay, so I would I want to reverse that question and go backwards to what I want people to do, what we need people to do. And that's coming with us, standing with us, whether it's doctor's appointments, or it's where we have a courthouse appointment for whether it's a hearing or whatever the case might be, just showing, having more faces outside of our families, to be there with us on the front line saying that this is not right. Because right now they want the courts and DSS, they want to hide what they're doing from the public. They say, oh, this is public, on public records, but when you go search any CPS case, unless it's went to a higher court outside of their jurisdiction, that's when you see the records. They
Mm-hmm.
want to keep anything that's a allegation of abuse and neglect out of the public records, even police reports. If you even try to go and contact Howard County or Anne Arundel County Police Department, you will not be able to get your hands on the police records. They have to be subpoenaed in order for you to get them, because now they've created these loopholes that say, oh no, even under the Public Information Act, you cannot be able to request this because of the allegations of abuse and neglect. But if you want people to make this this situation to stop, and you want people to learn from the so-called mistakes that one is doing, then why won't you make that information public? Yes, you can redact certain things if they are like PII or something that is gruesome, but if there's no allegations that are like in those two baskets, then why aren't you giving that information? So, and definitely having people to demand that they make those records public. That's something I haven't done, and that's something that I want us to do, because I want people to know that they put this in a category. Any CPS case, they shield them, and I'm not sure how they shield them from public records, but we need to make sure these records are public so that anybody who wants to go inspect these records at any courthouse, they can be able to go ahead and say, hey, I want case number whatever, and I want to be able to request it to look over these files and records, because I want this for my personal knowledge and my personal safety, so that I can know how to react in a situation like this. Or if they have someone who is able to give their time, whether it's a person who is of a certain profession, they'll be able to say, hey, I don't have to go above and beyond to look for all of the ins and the outs of the cases. So, and then as far as
So let's talk
where,
about let's talk
how,
about. I'm sorry to interrupt you, so that people can understand what's happening to you. Let's talk about what happened to you. Then you can go
okay,
what has happened,
so,
what's going on.
okay, so, there was a family member who made a report, a malicious report, against myself and my husband, and this family member didn't come to us and ask us like, hey, do you guys need help? Or even if they saw anything wrong, instead of them making allegations, they went to CPS with a malicious intent to basically do whatever they wanted to do, scare us or whatever. And that ended with our car being surrounded and our babies being basically, they baited us to have this welfare check. And I mean, this welfare check, saying that they needed to see if, initially it was Colin, that they wanted to see if he was okay, because the family member said that he was malnourished, he was being medically neglected, and everybody in our family knows that Colin was born prematurely. And then shortly after, when we had his sister Clover, she was born premature, but no allegations of those of medical neglect or anything. So basically, we were forced to take them to the hospital, allow them to be taken to the hospital by ambulance, but they told us that we cannot get in the ambulance. When we got to the hospital, they basically said, the social worker told the police to come out and tell us that we had to get off of private property. I refused medical attention for my son and daughter. They stated I couldn't do that because CPS had now taken over custody of our son and daughter without any court order or any paperwork or any legally binding agreement to say that they can do this. And they said if we didn't leave, we would be arrested, because that's private property. And then we were forced to be up many hours before we could actually go see a judge. And basically, they were granted by default, because they already had our son and daughter in their care and custody, that yeah, they had guardianship over them.
um, what was the charges that they brought up against you and justice?
No charges at all. Still no charges to this day. They send us a paper saying, oh, notice of investigation being closed, but there are indications of neglect for Colin and Clover.
What was their indications of neglect for your son?
Medical neglect, and medical, him being malnourished,
Mhm.
because they stated that we didn't take him to the hospital, because of this family member who told that we didn't take our son to the hospital or to any doctors, which was a lie, because we choose to take our son and daughter to more of a naturopathic doctor,
Mhm.
and we don't mind taking them to any Western medicine doctors as long as they align with us. But the situation was blown totally out of proportion. because they wanted us to produce those records of going to a one specific doctor, and if
Hmm.
we missed any visits, they basically say that we neglected them because they didn't go to a specific doctor.
Tell me what it felt like. When I first heard about your case when Operation Stop CPS was like, yesterday we need animal help to be partnered with you because we have comrades in Maryland, and when I first heard about how you were surrounded, how you were tracked down, hunted by the police. Let's talk a little bit about what that was over the course of a couple days.
I felt like how Cleo and Jada Pinkett Smith on Set It Off. You would have thought we would have robbed a bank or stole these babies from the hospital from
Mm-hmm.
somebody else. Because once the initial social worker went to my family's home and was trying to track us down and wanted to go into my mother's home and all of this stuff, when my mother called me and she asked me what was going on, I'm in the middle of the grocery store, and mind you, it's raining. So the alignment of how the weather and the way that I felt, it was like it couldn't be any more better. Because standing in the middle of a grocery store with my daughter, and I'm like, what is going on? Like the storm was literally physically going around me and also within my mind of not knowing how things were going to go. And I know how ugly things can get by seeing videos on social media of people being out somewhere, being followed, being tracked. I did not know at this point in time, I hadn't even known how this had came about. So with me just being with my daughter and needing to go and speak with my husband about this, because he had my son at his family house at that point in time. um, I was just like, okay, let's try to call the social worker, let's see what's going on. And when I approached her and told her, hey, like, I don't need you guys' services, like, we're good, like, there's no neglect over here, nothing wrong over here, she was like, well, that's not how the department works. And I'm like, not how the department works. Well, who said that I needed your services? Like, who's where's the contract, or where's the agreement that we said that at any point in time you can come in and take my babies, or say that you have a say so in how their life is going? So when she heard me tell her I didn't need her services, and I hung up in her face because I called her from a blocked number because I didn't want her to have my number. She sent the police to my family's home, and that's when all of the police involvement, they went there that time. Um, and I had just gotten back from the grocery store, unpacking the groceries with my family, and my daughter was there with me, and they came and was like, "Hey, we just want to do a welfare check." And I'm like, okay. They saw my daughter. I didn't allow them to touch her or anything. They left. And then the next day, they went back to my family's home at 10, 11 o'clock at night doing a welfare check. Then it consistently happened. They gave the rest of the weekend. I got email from the social worker after I had asked her, "Hey, can I get your delegation of authority? Who sent you here? Who said that you have the authority to do this?" I asked for the whole, um, the her chain of commands, contact information. I asked. She said that there were specific words that she pointed out in her email that she initially sent to me introducing herself. I'm like, "Are you guys a I'm like, are you a credit reporting agency or something? Because you're asking for all of my information, you're gonna collect it, and you're gonna send this to somebody else." And I'm just asking all of these questions that were popping up in my mind. I'm like, y'all not giving me answers, but y'all want answers. So when I initially didn't do the welfare check for Colin, and they kept asking me, "Hey, where is he? Who is he with? Where does his dad live? Can we get an address? Can we get a phone number? Can we get a name?" I'm like, no,
Yeah,
because I have that right to. I don't have to give you anybody's information, because who said that they wanted you to have their information?
I'm
So
reminded. I'm, go ahead, sis.
no, you can go ahead.
Yeah, I'm reminded. I was watching. I'm a big true crimes fan, and so I watched this I watched a program where this white woman, uh, she had killed both her kids, and they were looking for the son first. Like the family was like, "Where is our grandson? We haven't seen him for a while." She was just like, "He's at my sister's house," and so it went on for like a year, and then the sister, her daughter, um, eventually became missing too, and eventually they found both bodies in buried in some farmhouse from her current husband. She's over here getting married in Hawaii while nobody could find her kids, and they did not do anything to her. There was no CPS case. There was nothing. She kept switching states, but she was living her life out proud. I'm mentioning this because um, I'm mentioning this because when it comes to white people, especially people who appear to be affluent or whatever, they don't do this kind of police um, onslaught to them. The level of scrutiny for Black families is definitely higher, and the amounts of children that are removed from Black families almost immediately are much higher. So I want people to understand that this is not. We know that everybody get their kids taken and all that stuff, but when we talk about Black families, the disproportionality is completely off the charts. Off the charts. It's the same if you measure it to the number of disproportionality of people who are in prison that are Black and Black women. And we have to see that this is the same entity, is the same colonial state that is doing the prison stuff, doing the school stuff, is doing the taking of children. So it's a well-rounded tactic to really disrupt, family and family life. What did you think, Mashe? I know that sometimes family members they don't know. I don't know if family members know the full scope. I wouldn't know the full scope. You probably gonna call somebody and scare them. So whatever, just to be petty. But
Yeah.
like after they see like what the hell is happening, what has been that family member's response? Did they ever apologize, or what they say? I told you, or what is that
Family
response?
member has went so far as, I don't know, because it's more than one, but
Yeah.
I don't know if they have a mental illness or whatever, because they were even on the call the day after our babies were taken. They
Mm-hmm.
were on the call asking if they can get custody
Yeah.
of them.
Mm-hmm.
Then went so far as to wanted to sit us down and have a conversation like, "Hey, we're here for you. We can help you if you need help."
Mm-hmm.
But
After
when,
the fact.
yeah, after the fact, and then turned around and lied to the social worker and the police that we
Mm-hmm.
were following the foster parent home with our babies, and we threatened them with a gun. But don't you think we would have been arrested if that happened?
Mm-hmm.
They're just
Mm-hmm.
adding on things that would make us look like a bad mom and a bad
Yeah.
dad,
Yeah.
and just keep sending little like cryptic messages however they can get to us, because we don't have any like contact with them at all. Like,
Yeah.
it's like a deer in the headlights. They don't want to take accountability for the things that they've caused, and just keep saying, yeah, we don't know if they'll give your kids back to you if they want to. That's if you deserve them.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that when we talk about CPS, we have to also acknowledge the community's response to that and community's role in that in some cases,
Hmm.
because these instances that we're seeing, particularly, let's talk about. I want to come back to what I was about to say, but I want to talk about like just ask you flat out, were you neglecting your children?
No, I was doing the total opposite.
Yeah.
So with my son Colin, he was born 3 pounds 13 ounces.
Hmm.
I did not want to leave his side in that NICU. I basically, before I had him, I was on bed rest, modified bed rest, wanting to put myself first. I asked my midwife, like, "Hey, can is there some way, because my cervix was shortening?"
Hmm.
I said, "Hey, can I get a letter or something stating that I need to rest?" Like, I was the only one throughout the pandemic at my job. I was one of those, what do you call it? I can't even think of one of those mandatory people, like a
Hmm.
essential worker.
Yeah.
And I was at work. Like, I had worked like days straight at
Hmm.
some point in time, and nobody cared about my health. But when I got pregnant, I put myself first.
Yeah.
I chose to change my diet, go more towards plant based, getting all of these different vitamins and minerals so that I can make sure that my baby and myself were taken care of. So when my son came early, he was my Mother's Day gift. He was born the day after Mother's Day in 2021. And I had crystals that I left in the NICU. Like, I put a little note up on the board, like, here are my crystals. Don't move them. My mommy needs them here for me to heal. It was only maybe about 4 days after I put those crystals there, my baby was he came home.
Mhm.
He had to make it to 4 pounds, and he had to make sure he was keeping up his body temperature.
Mhm.
After that, I made sure all of the doctor's appointments he needed to go to, he was there. And at that point in time, his dad had suffered a traumatic brain injury.
Oh.
So I chose to quit my job. I told my boss, I was like, I can't do this with a newborn and having my husband go through this. I can't do this. So I chose to say, hey, I'm going to focus on my family and make sure my family is healthy. So I was taking them to doctor's appointments and everything. Um, Going to different specialists, got a naturopathic pediatrician who didn't force me to vaccinate my son or anything, and just doing research on how I can be the best mom that I can be.
Mhm.
Um, and once I started doing that, and people were like, oh, why is he so small? I'm like, he was just born at 34 weeks and 3 days. And my mother has a history of um, preterm labor as well with my sisters. So it's not something that I wanted to happen. Like, it's my family. Like, my mother, I came from her, and with having those type of genes, that's something that I had to be like forced to deal with, having a premature baby. And I did everything that I needed to do for him during that time period. So I did what I had to do as a mom. I don't think there was anything else that I couldn't have done. Like, I literally dedicated all of my time to be a mother. I even, after my contract was up in the army, I didn't re-enlist, and God knew that He wanted me to focus on being a mother because I signed up for 2 deployments and they didn't choose me. They said, "Oh well, we have other people who we want to choose," because I would have been having my son overseas, and who knows how that would have went. So everything happened for a reason, and like I said, I've been doing everything I can to be the best mom. Even throughout this whole situation, I've been up all day and night seeing how I can still be the best mother that I can be to Colin and Clover.
I'm showing the picture of the babies, and I'm
Yeah.
seeing how big and healthy Colin is, and how big and beautiful Clover is, and just
Yeah.
I just want people to see these children and the mom and the family justice as well. And that was the first picture. And I think that's really important when um, we think about, caring for our family and our community. The way to do that is not state is by doing what Mashai initially said, checking in, checking in on people, and offering assistance as opposed to being malicious. And basically, you might not agree with somebody's lifestyle, but if you can do anything, you need to keep those babies out of the custody of the state, because it takes sometimes many people years. What have they asked you to do, Mashe? Because I know the rat race they put parents on. They haven't told you. They told you that it was failure to thrive, neglect, right? But what are they
Mhm.
asking you to do now in order to get custody of your children back?
So they want us to provide proof of employment, proof of residency. They want us to do the psychiatric and the psychological exam. Um, they also want us to go to now a parenting class. Um, and these, they keep saying these are all recommendations. I say recommendations are suggestions, correct? That you're suggesting that I do this. It's not something that I have to do.
Mhm.
But once I ask this question over and over again, they state, oh no, it's a recommendation. It's a
Mhm.
recommendation.
Mhm.
And yeah, so they, in the deeper we get into it, they want to keep on adding on little things. Like now the parenting class that they just decided to throw in to, I want to say they threw that into an email about two weeks ago.
Yeah. Yeah. These are the same like we've been working with parents for a long time, and these are the same things. And usually, it is these sorts of programs, you agreeing to them or not agreeing to them, are the basis for why they continue to hold on to children. And we need to help people understand that this is a business for the state. The amount of children that are held in the custody of the state, they get money from the federal government to hold these children. The longer that
And
they
even
do it.
per visits, they get paid per visit. So even though that's the only thing that they said that we can see our babies at least 2 times a week,
Mhm.
and right now they've only done 2 hours out of the whole time, 2 hours out of the week, and outside of when we go to their doctor's appointment. And they want us to go to the doctor's appointments. We've been to every doctor's appointment except for, I want to say, about two or three that
Mhm.
they purposely wanted to keep us from, because they wanted to shift how they got things on papers from the doctors, because they know when I come in there with a notebook. Of course, I'm recording from my personal safety and records, and I'm asking questions. And they know that when I come in there asking those questions, that either one, the social worker, she's gonna get upset, like, why does she know this? Because she knows that I'm a very competent woman. I
Mhm.
don't. I'm not going here like, oh, is he okay? No, I know my baby is okay, and I'm
Yeah.
confident with that.
Yeah.
I don't show that I'm not confident in anything that I say or do around these people.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, I mean, I just know that people, I see some questions that are coming. Please pin those questions. I'm gonna come back to them, and then we're gonna answer we're gonna answer them toward in the next 15 or so minutes. But yeah, what people need to understand overall is that, we don't, we want the children to be safe, we want the parents, the mothers not to be criminalized, but we also want the people to be outraged by this. The numbers, the way that this is being portrayed to the public, people get outraged only if they see something dramatic. So, for example, we saw, and Masha, you might feel free to talk about what happened to you recently, but police will surround a car, take you off on the middle of the highway, treat you like you are are you what do you call them, people, public enemy number one, and don't have any concrete evidence that you've done anything to children. But also, when did the state start caring about what we do with our kids? You know what I'm saying? When we think about the historical record of this country, they didn't care about, how we were treating our children when we were in their houses taking care of their kids. And our kids was at home fending for themselves, with other family members. They didn't care about our children when we left them by the tree to go wet nose their kids. And then, we really have to recognize that the escalation of CPS really happened after, the Black Revolution of the 60s, and people were fighting back. And the best way to do that, and knowing that the majority of people who were in revolutionary organizations were women. So what better way to kind of, infiltrate that by using this and other tactics to really break down women and keep us wrapped around this struggle. So we were like, we want to enter into this struggle with the women who are being impacted and make this a political struggle too, because this needs to be a part of the broader, and liberation movement for Black people, because it really hits at the heart of it. When you take a child, you disrupt and destroy the entire family. You cause
The
dissension,
whole biological the whole
framework.
biological system, that their cycle that they're supposed to be going through with
Mhm.
learning and seeing. I wouldn't be surprised if my babies start to talk or have mannerisms like
Yeah.
them,
Hmm.
because of how they're there with them. It To break a habit, it takes what, 90 days, 30 days, how
Hmm.
many ever, and my babies have been there longer than that time
Where are your
period.
babies? Who has them?
So they're in foster care. They're
I
in
have.
foster care with
Who are the foster?
A Caucasian woman, her husband, and her son and daughters.
Hmm. Hmm.
Not with family. They're with
Yeah.
a Caucasian family.
Have your family tried to get your children?
Yes.
Okay. What has been the barriers to that?
Oh, they didn't speak up or say anything. But these same people who make that decision about interviewing them and getting them to be with the family is the same ones who sat on the meeting and they heard that my mother wanted my son and daughter.
Hmm. Yeah. In most cases, people think that they can call the CPS and they're going to be first in line to get the
Hmm.
children. And the reality is that that is not the case. We have learned the families who want the children to try to get them out of the system, and they do not give it to you. They do not give it to grandma or grandpa, auntie or uncle. They keep the children with strangers in the
They
custody
want
system.
them to sign up to be foster parents now
Yeah.
because that's what my family has been faced with. Anybody who wants to be um the person who gets my son and daughter, they stated that they have to sign up to be fingerprinted, they have to be investigated, and they have to go through the whole foster parent
Mhm.
um the
Thing.
whole foster parent process.
And that's really just to record families and record the whole. It's a policing state. Like it's there to record your whole entire family.
It's like
And
their own version of the census,
yeah, yeah.
keeping tabs on everybody.
That's what it is. That's what it is. And you know, back in the day when somebody had an issue with the kids, what they'll do is grandma might have them, auntie might take them, and that is a natural occurrence. But now they're saying that even your family are not good enough to take, and they're making the judgment call on people they do not know. And you know, I think that when we look at how we fight against this, we have to recognize that these are the avenues that at which children are taken. I talked to somebody who was a mandated reporter who didn't agree with being a mandated reporter, but anytime that you work for children anywhere in the United States, you become a mandated reporter. And so she works at a nonprofit for low income troubled youth. This is the best place for them to infiltrate, you know, African children, other children who are colonized, because this is the you'll see some of the contradictions of society that colonialism caused, like poverty. You might not have enough resources, things like that, that can kind of
But
eke
even
out.
when you look at their mission and vision statement, they're supposed to be assisting the community. And
Yeah.
I've even went above and beyond on the state board of social services, went on their meeting and asked them, is this what your mission and your vision statement says? You're supposed to be helping people, and they said they don't help this local DSS office. I said, but on your meetings minutes from your previous board meetings, they asked about setting up a bank account so they can get money from you guys. You helped them. Like,
Yeah.
they don't like the fact that I equip myself with knowledge, and it's
Mhm.
not something I'm just hearing from somebody. No, I stay up on the computer, I ask them for documentation, and until we ask them for their policies and their procedures and asking them how, okay, let me see in black and white where this says this, because they starting to make up their
They
own
make
rules.
up their own rules every single time, every single instance, and they get their rules defended by the court. So it all works hand in hand. In every single instance, they don't have the burden of proof to prove to you, the mother, that they could do any of these things. They have the power of the court, of the police, of the entire state behind them, so that they can influence anything that they want to do. They don't need to even
But
provide
the
you
thing
proof
is,
of it.
a lot of people don't know that
Yeah.
when you have a CPS case, you have the right to trial by jury and you have the right to face your accuser. You have to start looking over the Constitution, the Bill of Rights. You have to equip yourself with that knowledge so that
Mhm.
you can know what you are supposed to have, because they can say, "Oh no, you can't do that." But let's go back to the Constitution. Let's go back to the Bill of Rights and those unalienable rights that nobody can say anything about, because they're there for you, and that's not something that somebody can just say, oh yeah, well, you don't get that right today.
How
No.
would you equip other women and the community with what to do if they were in a situation like yours? Like now that you've been through it, like what would you have done differently, um, if anything? And what have you learned that really would have changed some of the things that maybe you've experienced?
um One, I would have had a bodyguard. I'm just playing. I would say anywhere that you live, like anywhere that you live, like your town, your state, your county, you need to actively be looking at those laws and those policies and procedures. If I would have known this stuff, especially if you're applying for services through them, whether it's food stamps
Mhm.
or
Mhm.
anything, look at the fine print, because at some point in time, because that's how I thought that I got into their pot of things. Like, oh, just because I applied for food stamps, like just continuing to brush up on those things, because all of their policies and procedures are online majority of the time, and you can see that those policies and procedures only apply to those who are foster parents or
Mhm.
those who are adopting babies, or giving up their babies voluntarily. Everything on there, they need your permission or consent to do anything. And knowing that from the very beginning, if you tell them they don't have the permission or your permission or your consent, and knowing and standing firm on that. And that's why at that point in time they had to get the plan together, like, oh yeah, we're going to tell her that they have to go to the hospital, they have to get in the ambulance by themselves. I wouldn't even let my babies get out of the car.
Mhm. Yeah. What has been happening to you that you think might be related to this case? I know that there's been a couple of things that have escalated. If you feel
Yeah.
like sharing, you don't have to.
Oh no, I feel like sharing. So I've been arrested 2 times, and this is something that I'm not used to doing. Like, I'm one of these women, like, I stay with my family. I don't really get into that side of things. And even with having family who is in law enforcement, like that's not something that, like, this whole situation I've been targeted. And recently, I last week on Monday, I was arrested again on the side of 695 because I had my phone in my hand for a second, and I was told that basically, after going to court the week before and being there, the judge still put out a bench warrant against me, because they also waited to hear my court, like to have my trial after everybody left. I was waiting for 3 hours
Mm.
in the courtroom, and they waited 3 hours to hear me. Put a bench warrant out against me, called the Capitol Police on me. I was able to leave. I didn't get arrested that day, but when I was on 695 driving, had my phone in my hand for a second, um, was pulled over, said that I had a warrant for my arrest. They didn't have the warrant. Um, the state trooper, he called about 3 or 4 different officers, and with that being said, the officers ended up basically tried to break window,
Mm.
and ended up at that point in time when they were trying to shatter my window, after I kept telling them I don't consent to them doing this, I don't consent to what they're doing. Basically, yeah, sprayed me, pulled me out of my, and had about 4 or 5 police on me, and were assaulting me. Basically, I have nerve damage in my hand now, so even with me doing this, like, it feels like I've been, like, I hit my funny bone.
Mhm.
And wasn't able to get medical attention because they all thought it was pretty funny. Didn't have any female officers. All of these officers in the paramedics were all Caucasian, and they basically thought that I was crazy. They basically labeled me as a domestic terrorist because of me asking them questions about laws and saying that I'm a sovereign citizen because I know my rights and I'm not allowing them to step on me. So I was taken to jail. And I was on my menstrual cycle at that point. I wasn't able to get any pads. I couldn't ask for water. I was knocking on the door for about an hour. I was told that I couldn't see the commissioners, see if I had bail. And if I did, then they would start the timer over. So they would have to hold me longer because I'm asking for things. And they said I
Mhm.
didn't want to comply. Then, then when they transported me to the jail, because I was taken to jail, I wasn't able to bond out in that amount of time, because they didn't have to bond out by um basically I was told that if I didn't sign over medical power of attorney to them for 1 year, that I would be put on suicide watch, stripped butt naked, without any um, pads or tampons, anything, and I would be by myself and until I complied with them.
Mhm. Let me just give a moment for this
And
because
then
I
on
feel
the
like,
icing,
go ahead. Sorry, there was a lag. Go ahead, finish your thought.
on the icing on the cake was they had my bail paperwork from 9 a.m. on Tuesday, and they didn't allow me to get released until 8 p.m. that night.
Yeah, what I was saying is I wanted to give a moment to like really think about everybody to really understand like what's happening here. The more that CPS is involved in your life in any state agency, it just shortens that distance between the state and you. Like so, you're now in the crosshairs of the police, of all the kind of policing agencies. That's why we call this the family policing system, the family regulation system, because it's not there to protect children. Because we all know and seen the statistics of what happens to children who are in foster care. Somebody in the chats mentioned the Hearts, these two women who adopted all the black children and drove their truck into the sea, killing all of those children after they've been running from CPS for all of this time, and nothing happened to them, even though um, they were on CPS's radar, and they never took those children from their custody. And this is what we're seeing that, but for Mashai and many other Black mothers and Black families, because not only happens to mothers, like Black families are experiencing the police terror associated with this. And being surrounded on the side of a highway by the sheriff, windows breaking, arms twisting. For what? Marche is not held up a bank. They've treated people who murder people with more respect than they have this woman and other women that we've seen associated with like child protective cases. They've walked white boys with AR-15s into McDonald's to give them food before they took them to jail after killing 10, 15 people in a row. And this is how they're treating, African women who are um, just saying, I know my rights, I know my rights. They're going to shatter your glass, put you on the ground, and take you to jail, hold up your paperwork so that you don't have the right to be bonded out immediately. I mean, it's terrible. And, I just wanted to, but we're fighting back. We're organizing with each other. We recognize, that this is a necessary evil, right? For lack of a better word, that we have to fight, because until we're free, we're gonna, not only are we talking about Mache, we're talking about some sister we don't even know yet. Somebody who's going to be introduced to this. That's why this program is so important, because people need to be introduced to this concept that CPS is not your friend. Do not be petty and call CPS on anybody. If you feel like there is help that you can offer, help that person. If you don't
Especially
like
if they're a mom. Like with me being a doula and me being, I'm so active in the community, especially just prior to me actually having Colin and Clover, I had a miscarriage, and everybody knows me on social media from speaking
that,
out about that, me
mm,
going through that grieving process, me teaching mothers to actually like stand in your truth and know that things that happen to you, you should talk to your community. There's communities out here. I'm a birth and bereavement doula. I also assist mothers and fathers who want to have babies, who are trying to conceive. So
mm,
I'm not somebody who's just like, oh yeah, I don't know anything, or I'm not here with other mothers. Like, actually, if you know somebody who needs a doula, ask them if they want to hire a doula. That's something that should be, when anybody has a person in their family who is pregnant, get a doula, whether it's for the birth or after the birth, because that sensitive time, I'm postpartum, I'm 7 months postpartum. I should, even though I've learned to balance my hormones, and I take different things, different herbs and supplements, and eat healthy, that's why I'm able to talk about this, and I'm not crying, I'm not angry or irate, because those are things. I have a village, I have doulas and midwives and other people I'm able to call on to assist me. And those are the people who we should reach out to in communities when,
Yeah.
at times like this. And even for fathers, like,
Mhm.
there's men who are doulas, there are men who are midwives. We
Mhm.
should use those people within the community, and even therapists or holistic healers. If we don't want to go to those doctors, and we don't want to get that type of results, or going down a path where we're going to be tracked through Western medicine, we need to use those around us. Those people who are saying, hey, donate $5 for me to give you some of my CMOS, some of this, some of that. Like, those are the people who we need to be calling on, not
Yeah.
shunning them.
Yeah. I think when that's a good point that you raised, because when, particularly for people who are going to give birth, like when you need advocates when you're going to the hospital, because the hospital is number one place where reporting can happen. So if you have a light baby, if you have a baby that's born with, I don't know, or a child that you bring in, because they might have fell fall and broken their arm, and there might be some bruising, you always have to go into these places with an advocate. Point, if you can't advocate for yourself, then I would never go into the hospital, especially with children, without somebody who can be there with you at based on a potential threat from the state, because they come through that. That's what all the mandatory reporting on. So I really appreciate what you said. And people who have older children too. That's just, and I appreciate the doula community, because we was reaching out to the doula community, and we wanted the doulas to be really a part of this, because we met some really amazing women at the Black Mothers March that we just had in May 14th on Mother's Day in Washington D.C. And we really met some advocates for mothers, not just who are going to be walking with you through the process of having a child and after that, but are actually activists and organizers and advocates for families, to defend families. And I think that we need to see more of that overall. Um, so let's get to our last question, and we can get into the question and answer portion of it. How do you see, or do you see? I know we've been talking about it throughout the whole program, but how do you see your fight to regain custody of your children? And do you think it's related to the historic oppression that we face as Black people in this country?
I do see that is definitely related. I know that this is going to end with us getting Colin and Clover back. I don't see this being a journey that's going to take any much longer. I know that we're at the home stretch of things, um, but I just have to get the community behind me. I've already told them before, that we have a nation behind us, because we do. Our story has reached the UK. I didn't even think that that would even happen. With me doing this, I'm not looking for the notoriety or the publicity or the fame or anything, because I already knew that the things that I was going to go through was destined for me.
Mhm.
I'm just here to help moms and dads and just families in general. So with having the community behind us to actually be there front and center and show these people that this is not right, um, I think that that's what's going to help us in the long run get them back. When it comes to our court case, that for the CPS case, we have a hearing on July 19th. So if you are willing to travel to the courthouse in Ellicott City, Maryland, on July 19th to assist us with the just having solidarity and peace, and letting people know that this is not right, that's what's gonna really get us to get Colin and Clover back. Because I guess they don't believe me, but just because they're stalking my page and they see that we have people behind us who are commenting on the news articles that have been written about us, or on my post or post, because they, of course, they see Anwo and Arrest CPS and having y'all in on the court hearings and stuff. They know that we have you guys behind us, but other people who don't look like us behind us, that's definitely what's going to get them. We need all flavors. We need everybody from coast to coast, ocean to ocean, nation to nation behind us.
What do you say to mothers who are going through this right now? Who, yeah, what do you say to mothers who are going through right now? Like, words of encouragement? Do you have any, or what words of lessons that you want to share with moms or fathers who are going through this right now?
Um, Definitely find unity in your family. At first, I was a little like, because I didn't know what I knew now about who did what. Um, I really, even though I we have that part of the family that has done this to us, literally forgive, like forgive and heal through what you're going through. You are not, this is not your end all be all, and
Hmm.
allow you to experience the emotions, but don't allow your emotions to experience you. Have control over it, because like I said, I wouldn't be sitting here, like, I'm not, don't get me wrong, I look at pictures of my babies every day, and because I can't talk to them outside of me going to supervised visits with them or seeing them at their doctor's appointments, I am sad. Like, I am really sad, but I don't want to allow my sadness to be like, allow that to be the situation, because if I didn't have the spirit to get up and to rise each day and start a new day and forgive and to heal, then I probably wouldn't have went to the Black Mothers March. I probably wouldn't have been able to share my story. And I'm doing this for all of the moms who couldn't do this. Like, there's a lot of moms who have died behind stories like this. There's been moms who have been beaten and like literally have lost their minds because of
Yeah,
this. There's
yeah.
fathers, like my husband experienced PTSD every single day we see a police, because he don't know if they're gonna come and get me. He
Hmm.
doesn't know, and they bother me. They don't bother him. Like, literally, don't brush off anybody's emotions of how they're feeling about this, because there's a lot of people who think that, oh yeah, you'll just get over it, or they're just being triggered. They'll get over whatever they're going through. No, like, literally take every emotion that someone is feeling and allow them to feel it as well. Everybody feels how they feel about certain situations. Just because it's not their baby and they're they may be an aunt or uncle, everybody is gonna like take your situation and they're gonna feel how they feel. But literally build your community within your family and allow it to grow and expand to everybody else who wants to support you. And I may not be able to talk to everybody, but I stay up pretty late talking to other moms and being up learning about laws and just seeing how I can equip myself to help my fight and other families fight. So reach out to me on social media, email me or anything. I'm here. Like, I'm here if you need to cry, if just anything. If you need somebody to get on the phone call with you and just be an advocate, I'm definitely opening up my doula services for moms who are going through CPS cases, and allowing me to be an advocate and speak for what I know and support them. So definitely reach out to me.
Share your information. How do people get in contact with you?
So my email address is your peace of mind 2016 at gmail.com. My Instagram is the soul coach, TheSoulKoach, and my business Instagram is official peace of mind LLC. I also have a podcast, so any moms who are willing to share their story, Peace of Mind, the Soul Coach, I would definitely be open to interviewing you and getting your story out there, because the more you talk about it, the more you heal and the more you help other people. And you won't harbor those emotions whenever you get your babies back, or even if you feel like you've lost your babies to being adopted out. That's not the end all be all. There's something that can be done.
I'm glad you're saying that too, because we have this healing circle space within the whole. apparatus of the Arrest CPS campaign that we have, and people will be learning more about that and invited to that. It's private. We don't do live streams on those, but really addressing the question of the long term effects, the trauma that this causes, not only the parents, but the children too, and the amount of healing that happens, that has to happen outside of this process. And I want people to recognize when we talk about the far off situations, right? And we look at slavery in particular, and people are like, yeah, they used to steal babies right from mamas off of slave blocks or auction blocks. And this is happening every day in our community. So we shouldn't have to look too far back to actually see the reality of what's happening to Black women and Black families, because it's happening right now every day through the CPS or whatever it's called in your state, DSS in Howard County, Maryland, DIFUS in Jersey, and whatever it's called, as Department of Family Services or whatever, that take children and keep them from you. That this is the same country and the same policy that legalized the kidnapping of Black people, the theft of Black children to use as money for white people. And this is what the foundation of this country was built on. So when we look at institutions like this, how can we be neutral? How can we think that these institutions are here for our benefit when nothing ever in this country has been for our benefit? And if it ends up being for our benefit, we had to fight tooth and nail in order for that to come, for us to come out on top around certain issues. So I really want people to recognize that the fight right now, you don't have to worry about things that happened hundreds of years ago, even though that was the foundation of what's happening today. But what's happening now needs your attention. And I really want to encourage people to support Mashai, and any other mother. You might know somebody who is in your community right now who may be going through this. And you walk up to her and ask her, what can you do? And most times it's just support. Most times it's just, can you come with me to do something or show up for something? And the number one thing that we get as feedback as organizers in this space is that people appreciate just the support and the advocacy and the defense always, because even when there's a contradiction, there may be a contradiction. The person might not have enough food, they may not know how to take care of the child well. The state is not the appropriate place for that to happen. Like, it can happen within the community, particularly if we have a sense of what is happening and we feel like we can offer that kind of help. And so I would just encourage us to do that, but also challenge the state. We can't just do it in isolation. That if we have every opportunity, show up to these marches, organize with these people, go to the city council meetings, meet with the people who are involved in the child protective service ring, and challenge them at every single step. Because if we don't, then we're saying that we allow for this to happen. So
And a lot of people need to contact these directors as
yeah.
well. The directors are the ones who hide behind, they're the mastermind behind all of the social workers, and they're more than likely they are a social worker themselves.
Mhm.
Go on your state's website, your state board of social worker, and you can look up all of the social workers. You can see if their license has lapsed or they're in good standing. Those are things you need to be pointing out, because if it's somebody running around and they don't have the correct credentials and it's lapsed or they're not in good standing, that's something you need to bring up, because they need to get gone. Like,
Yeah.
you need to be able to see that these people have the same credentials that majority of the people in the community have, and nothing makes them even better than them. If you have a social worker, each community should have a social worker who's willing to witness in cases. And I'm going to speak about um just about the things that are going on and how this shouldn't be happening.
It should definitely not be happening, but we recognize that it is happening because this is the society in which we live. Colonialism has not been destroyed, so we still colonize. And until we make that struggle, until we can win on that end, we still gonna it's gonna be a lot more maches and a lot more other people who are battling against this. But that's why we have organization, and that's why we call on people to join organization and join these campaigns to be of service. And I also want to encourage any other we need lawyers. You know what I'm saying? We need lawyers on the ground who are advocates, not just people who just know family law, but we need people who can go into those courts and say, X, Y, and Z in defense of the parents. We need advocates. We need, even if you can't go into the courts, if you can just provide guidance and be a service and a resource to this particular segment. If you can, if we need people to show up to these courts, if that's the only thing that you do, but we
NICU
need,
nurses,
yeah,
if there's somebody who going through where they're saying the baby is malnourished,
yeah,
NICU nurses need to be the ones. They're on the front lines. They know what's malnourishment, and what's not, and they know how when babies are premature and they're in the NICU, how it's a hard time for them to even go. And one thing I forgot to add in that moms and dads need to be doing when you go to your pediatrician, if your baby is premature, you need to ask them to put them on the age adjusted growth chart.
mm,
Doctors don't even use that, and they use that standard Health Organization chart. And that's basically if a baby was full term, their growth rate. They're
mm,
supposed to be putting babies who are born under 37 weeks on that age adjusted growth chart, because if they're not doing that, they're not giving them the proper, they're not charting their proper um weight and length and all of that up until they're two. And even after two, they still, you should still be charting it yourself or having a doctor or somebody do that, because that's how they get away with doing this stuff. And if you don't know that and you don't press that, then that's something that they're going to keep getting over on us on, because you have to know the difference between those charts.
yeah. I appreciate you saying that because that's been a real issue in your case. We're going to navigate into question and answer. So y'all get your questions ready, comments, and you ain't got to agree with what we saying. So you could just add a question and we can answer it the best that we know how to. Before we get into that, I'm just going to go through some announcements and then we get right into it. So the African National Women's Organization calls on women, African women from around the world to join us. This is the only anti colonial, anti imperialist revolutionary organization for Black women. We have members in Africa, Europe, and the United States. And we call on you to join the international collective of women building the revolutionary capacity of African women all over. So, to learn more about membership, you can go to anwouhuru.org/join. So that's anwouhuru.org/join. The African National Women's Organization also needs your help to establish our first headquarters location in St. Louis, Missouri. We have a total goal of $50,000. We have a building. We need to rehab that building, and we've raised $10,000 so far. So our goal for this live webinar is to raise $500. You can make your donation by going to anwouhuru.org/donate or Cash App at anwouhuru, ANWOUHURU. And any amount is accepted and appreciated. We are going to make this the hub for Black women internationally. So if you're ever in St. Louis, we definitely want y'all to check us out once we get this building rehab. So we want y'all to also support the economic development project of the African National Women's Organization, which is the Colonized Hair and Body. It is a natural personal care product that highlights the natural ingredients that traditional care practices used by Indigenous people around the world. So we want you to get your items today. You can also volunteer with us, join our marketing team, and purchase from our website at decolonize, decolonise.com, decolonize.com, to find out more about our products and what it represents. And all of the proceeds that the Colonies um, makes are going toward the African National Women's Organization, and of course, back into the brand so we can make more good stuff for our people. We also want to alert you about the Hands Off Uhuru, Hands Off Africa, support the Uhuru 3 in our fight against the U.S. indictments that the U.S. brought down against our movement. Defend the struggle for African freedom, defend the African liberation struggle, and defend the Uhuru movement. You can find out more about this campaign by continuing to watch the Burning Spear TV channel on YouTube and checking the Anwo Uhuru Facebook page for updates. But you can also go to our website, handsoff uhuru, handsoff uhuru.org. We're also calling on you to volunteer with us. So we talked a lot about in today's program about how people can get involved. If the only thing that you volunteer for is to say I want to be involved with going to court dates with families, then we'll take you. But we also are looking for people who can participate in the overall infrastructure of the organization. So if you're looking, we are looking for producers, interpreters, because we want to make sure that we capture the voice of African women who don't speak English, um, and chat moderators and advocates who can participate in our work. So email us at info@anwauhuru.org if you'd like to share your skills and if you just like to know more about what we do as an organization. And then finally, coming in June this month, 2023, the verdict is in. Reparations Now is celebrating the 40th anniversary edition of the report from the 1982 World Tribunal on Reparations to African People. This is the book that is coming out, written by Chairman Omali Yeshitela. We're asking folks to pre-order right now to get their copy, I believe, at the end of June. And the Burning Spear store website. That's right, the Burning Spear, not .com, store, the Burning Spear store website. So I think that's the last uh, announcement. And I want to get back into our questions. So, comrades, friends, African patriots, um, we are going to go into question and answer. Are there any questions that we can see from anybody? Oh, I think I saw one from Chastity on Facebook a little bit earlier. She asked, "How long have your children been gone?"
So they were medically kidnapped on January 24th, 2023.
Okay,
So it's almost been 5 months.
okay. And go ahead, throw your little questions in. Okay, I think I must have scrolled by a whole bunch. Hold on a second.
Oh,
Okay,
Yasmin.
I see it. Oh, you see them too. Okay, great. Yeah,
Yes.
answer my question. Why do you think that they targeted your family?
I don't really think we were targeted. I think they were just following up. So what I've been doing within my research, really learning about this DSS office, their numbers went down for intaking children during during the like pandemic, because they get majority of their reports from schools,
Mm-hmm.
and their numbers from the schools went down more than half. So they had to find an alternative way to keep their numbers up, because they get paid through that Title 4E funding through the Social Security Administration. So also, if any babies are in foster care, you need to be making a complaint through the Social Security Administration, letting them know that your baby is in foster care or they've been medically kidnapped, and let them know that they're misusing that funding because you're not volunteering your babies to be taken. They were actually taken involuntarily.
Thank you, comrade. Um, are there? I don't see any more of the questions, so I might go ahead and ask some more. um, you said that the road is, you can see the end of the road. What does that mean in terms of like where you are in your supposed case plan with the state?
So we haven't done any of their services in the service agreement. We handed them an alternative agreement stating that we will conditionally accept this agreement and do the service plan if you provide us proof of that you guys don't have that Title 4E funding from the Social Security Administration, that these foster parents are not being paid for having our babies, um, and just other little things, stating that we had a contract with them, that if we do the mental health exam, they will not use it against us in court, because that's against the ADA, the American Disability Act. And
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people don't know what, because I'm a disabled veteran, so you are covered under these acts. Any act that you can think of, those that's should be the fuel to your fire with anything that you're going through with these people, is to know that you have things that are covering you, laws and acts that are covering you.
Yeah. So what does that mean in terms of like, because we know that they do hold these evaluations against many parents because parents feel like they have to do it in order to go to the next step, in order to go to the next step. And what is this something that's delaying your next steps with the state, or is it progressing the steps to get the children back?
It's delaying it because they want us to give in as time gets closer to court. So I just find more things. And we do have a public defender. I see that people have been asked what type of legal assistance do we have, or we have a good attorney. Right now we have I have a public defender. My husband, he doesn't have a public defender. But we've been doing all this research on our own from the very beginning. So we're I'm using utilizing the public defender as a way to see if she can gain some leverage and um put her foot down to say that these things are not needed because they weren't supposed to be taken, and just standing my ground. But they are saying that until we provide them with the address so they can see our home, or provide with where my husband works at, then they'll feel comfortable because they need to know that they're safe when they go back
Mm-hmm.
with us.
Mm-hmm. Let's. I see some questions coming in. I want to get to those before I ask my next question. So, Sayero is how can we, and is there a bullet point for navigation through the missteps, the contradictions of the CPS system that can be handed out in a door-to-door fashion? If I think you're asking if there's materials like a Know Your Rights pamphlet. Generally speaking, NWO has a Know Your Rights pamphlet that's on our website on Arrest CPS. Our website under the Arrest CPS campaign is general, but there's different nuances per state. But I think generally speaking, that would be helpful for people to be handed out in the community. Mashe, I don't know if there's anything that you have that created, but if you have, you can definitely share.
So I'm actively putting together like a running list of things that families can do in regards to this, and also keeping a ledger of everything that you're going through. So I have a over 20-page ledger of any court cases, like the criminal stuff they're trying to put on me from the arrest, all the agencies involved, the people who I've talked to, what I talked to them about, all of those things. Keeping those running list of everything is what's going to help you as well. And then I'm putting together a birthrights packet as
Yes,
well.
yes.
Um, and I'm going to start with Maryland, and then I'll, if I get someone who comes to me in a different state, then I'll put together so that we can have kind of like a running list of what we need for each state, and go from there.
Brooke Bennett on YouTube is asking what type of legal assistance is helpful for protecting Black families. All of the legal assistance that we can muster. I think in particular there's a movement around Black lawyers defending people who might be beaten up by the police or abused by the police. You know, policing
Yeah.
aspect. But there needs to be a movement of lawyers who are dealing with the family courts, in particular the courts that are addressing foster care, because it's a disproportionality. There is a bias against Black families, and we know why. And so we need advocates, not just lawyers who can lawyer. We need lawyer advocates that can say this is what you need to do, but also this is what I think that we should do in accordance with their law, that can push your case forward. Because what we often see parents run up against, and Mashay could talk about this too, is that every parent is afforded a public defender,
Mhm.
and y'all know all the stigma around public defenders. They have high caseloads. They don't know every single case. They're not your independent lawyer, and
Mhm.
sometimes they just don't. They just shuffle it through. They tell you exactly what you need to do. They work for the court, so they don't have any motivation for you to win. They just want to get you off their books. And so what we do need, even if we don't have somebody that can represent somebody in court per se, is we need somebody who can actually just help us plan, um, how to be in court, particularly for mothers who choose to dismiss their lawyers
Yeah.
and do pro se,
Yeah.
because that's a lot. Like people go pro se, and
Mhm.
that's what we need, all the legalese we could possibly get. So I think just get in contact with us at Anwell, info@anwelluhu.org is our email. You go to our website, find out more information about us. But if you want to call Mashai directly, that would be great too. She shared her email earlier, but Mashai, did you have anything else you wanted to add in terms of what the legal protection could be?
Um, Also, I see this question from YouTube where the person asks, "Is it going to be on Zoom?" So yes, it's going to be on Zoom. And last time they asked if we wanted to be in the courtroom, it could be hybrid. Um, I want to try to get everybody on Zoom. We haven't decided if there's going to be people who come in person. We will be there in person at the courthouse. So if people are definitely doing that, then we want everybody to be there with us with posters and everything. We're definitely going to bring our posters from the Black Mothers March. We're going to wear our pins and everything. So yeah, if there's people who want to be on that Zoom hearing, I'm going to spread that link as time gets closer. And also, as far as for legal assistance, definitely take the time out to choose what public defender is best for you. Like, kind of have like a list, interview them, and see how they are, like, how they mesh with your family and your situation, because it's not the end all be all, and you have to find whoever is going to help you. So don't feel like you have to choose that person that they assign to you.
Yeah, I think that's a good point because a lot of people go through several public defenders in their case, and there's if somebody's not working for you and you still want to choose a public defender, right? You have the right to get them dismissed and try to find another one that can help you or be a little bit more, beneficial to your case. Um,
One
but
other
yeah,
thing I was going to say is definitely go to your courthouse and get to know these people, these clerks, like the people at the counter. Ask for your whole case file. A lot of people are scared to
yeah,
go, and they feel like whatever is just sent in the mail to you is what is in your case file, and that's not true. Um, when CPS puts anything into the court records, you can see when it was entered. You can get a copy of your whole case file and get a certified copy, because that is holding the court accountable and stating that everything is true that is put into that file. And that's basically under the pains of penalty of perjury. So if somebody is basically attesting to say that everything in that case is true, then okay, well, prove it. Prove that it's true. And they will have to testify in court and say that it's true, and they have to have proof.
well, great. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. I think going down and learning, like we have to I think as organizers and advocates too, we have to also be in tune with the court system, know the clerks, because we have a case in Philly where we had to like reach out to a clerk to find out something about this case, and she was giving amazing advice about how you can get into the courts because in some states, in some counties, in some cities, you can't have everybody in the courtroom. They won't let you, and you can't have everybody on Zoom. They won't let you in. So like really learning these clerks, even being friendly with public defenders and people who are in the court system is really helpful because then they know like they can be a part of the overarching structure to like fight back because they see it all. They see it all,
And
and
getting their oaths as well is one thing. Um, Throughout this whole process, I've been getting the judges and the police officers, the sheriffs who I've been in touch with, like who arrested me or had some dealings over this case. You have to get these people there. That oath is what they're being held to. They took an oath. They swore in that they were going to defend the people of whatever state under the Constitution. If you have that in your hand and it's notarized and it's stamped by the clerk of the court, that's basically the end all be all. You hold that up and tell them this is what you signed up for. This is what your job. You signed that. You said that that oath is what you're gonna do and how you're gonna handle your job. So basically holding these people to what they signed up for. We
I
didn't
said
force them to sign up for it.
I agree with you, but I also think that they're gonna spit on that shit, spit on it, and just like
They are, but hey, it's just showing that you know
yes,
what they're
yep,
going to be
yep,
doing.
yep, yep. I agree. I agree. Um, Is there, we're wrapping up in a few minutes, but is there something that you have done in this process that maybe you think you might have reconsidered, or do you think that everything that you've done to get your children back has forwarded the mission to get them back? And if there's anything that you would redo again or do differently, like, you do you know what it would be?
Um, I would say it's more so I don't have any regrets over anything. Um, because even with me speaking out and even trying to let them know about like our religious beliefs, it definitely let them know, okay, these are some certain things, like as far as not vaccinating our babies and having that religious exemption card, um kind of played a part in them not vaccinating our babies or anything or giving them any shots. Standing my ground, going to speak to the doctors when you and yet Hada came and advocated with us. Just really continuously going in person is something that I would continue to do over and over again. I don't regret it, but just continuously going in person and having these conversations with people, and advocating and having more people with me. That's something. If I could do certain things over again, I would have more people. So if I
Mm-hmm.
did want to do the welfare check and allow them to do it from the very beginning, I would have a group of people. Hey, let's go to my church. Let's go here. Let's do
Mm-hmm.
it in person and let everybody see, because
I'm,
that would be the only thing that would have nipped it in the bud.
I'm going to share your GoFundMe. Can you tell people about what you're raising funds for and how they can help?
So we want to get some expert witnesses, hiring doulas, getting better attorneys outside of the public defenders. So if we have to move forward with appealing this court case, we already have it in the appellate court right now, which I was able to do, and also basically putting ourselves in a position so that if there's anyone or any organization that's willing to help us, we are able to exchange that energy and pour back into them for assisting us. And also with getting transcripts, that's one of the things that has held us up, is getting the transcripts from the courts, because they don't want to move forward with the appellate court hearing because they want us to pay like $400 for
Mm-hmm.
the transcripts, audio, and the written portion of it. So that's something, with court costs, that has been holding us up, and even mailing things back and forth to officials, like whether it's the attorney general, the governor, contacting those people, which is what we've been doing, sending complaints to the Department of Justice, not just doing it online. Also putting in complaints online with the Health and Human Services. Um, they are they have things online, but they want you to actually send them in like your physical copies of certain things that can't be sent like emailed to them. So that's really the main thing, and just making sure that we have the adequate like legal assistance as well.
So everybody, go ahead and scan this QR code that's on your screen. What is the? I don't have the. What is it? Let me see if I can click on it. You go to gofundme.com/f/bring dash Colin dash and dash Clover dash home, or just go on GoFundMe and find the case that says Bring Colin and Clover Home, and that's where you can donate. If you have the ability to scan the QR code, it'll take you right there
And
to
we
the.
also have a petition through change.org, and it is to shut down the Howard County Department of Social Services. We need at least 10,000
Mm,
um, signatures. So if you even just know anybody, if they are not able to donate to the GoFundMe, just please share that around, because this is what how we're gonna bring them down as well. I don't plan on them being open, whether our case closed and they're still actively conducting business. Um, we're gonna do whatever it takes to get that $10,000, that 10,000 signature, so that we can close them down and have alternative measures for families in the future. in the community.
Uhuru. Uhuru. Thank you so much, Mashe. Before we close out, I'm going to do the plug again. We need y'all to join the African women to join the African National Women's Organization. If you happen not to be an African woman, if you're an African man, if you're not an African woman, but you're a woman, and you want to support the organization, you can donate and become a sustaining donor. And this work is the work that we support. This is the work that we try to have full-time organizers for, and your donations and your memberships also go toward making that, and your actual membership also helps you stay in tune with all of the work that we're doing in the African National Women's Organization. So you will never miss another march, you would never miss another live stream, you would never miss another opportunity to be involved in this and other issues at the African National Women's Organization. And the membership ranges from $25 for the year, and monthly memberships from then on up that are less money than that. So take a look at our membership, African women, and the sponsorships and the sustaining donors for non-African women um, are also in the same vein. It happens every month if you would like, and it just supports the work of the African National Women's Organization. So go ahead and click that QR code or go to anwouhuru.org/join. Mashe, before we head out, is there any last comments that you want to share with folks out here in the world?
Um, I'll just say one through my business. I use this hashtag. It's hashtag keep smiling.
Mm.
Um, smile when you're hurting, smile when you're happy, smile when you're angry. Because you have to trick your brain into acting more positively in those manners, even when it may seem like you're faced with something that may be defeating. So, really, just put yourself first and continue to like move forward. Always continue to move forward, don't move backwards. And if you're moving backwards, just keep moving forwards after
All the
that.
time. Thank you so much, Mashe, for being a guest on our first episode, our first official episode. We had episodes before. Our first official episode of The Breakdown with the African National Women's Organization. We're going to keep everybody abreast of your case, and I'm sure you will do that as well. And we will be there with you on July 19th in Howard County, Maryland, supporting you as well. So thank you everybody for watching us. Appreciate your time, and we'll see you next month for next month's The Breakdown. But you should also check us out on next Friday when we have African Women Must Lead with Yejide or with me. uh, when we do a political education on why African internationalism is a theory for African women. All right,
Thank
have
you
a
for
good
having
day.
me.
Of
Thank you
course, of
everybody for
course.
participating.
All
Thank you.
right. All right, bye y'all. Uhuru.